kid you not, I've been changing the setup around for the different videos and stuff, and I've literally lost the pedal I'm talking about, and I can't figure out where I put it. Telefunken, baby, we're moving up in the world. Okay, YouTube, I'm back, and I'm just going to pretend like I didn't disappear for 3 to 6 months, or however long it's been since I've actually uploaded a full video. So first off, we passed the 100 subscriber mark. I know that's not a large number, especially in YouTube world, but it's a big number for me, and I appreciate each and every one of you that are here to hear me ramble about guitar stuff. So thank you. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps me out, and I appreciate it. But in today's video, I'm talking about tube screamers, and more specifically, my favorite tube screamer-esque pedal. Now, tube screamers, as you probably know, are wildly popular. There's a bunch of versions out there of them. A lot of people use them. They're probably the most popular overdrive, if not guitar pedal, period. They are pretty much single-handedly responsible for the unwritten rule why every overdrive must be colored green, and there's been hundreds of mods to them over the years. Now, the Tube Screamer is actually not my favorite overdrive circuit type, and I'll probably do a video on my favorite one later on, but in my opinion, they do one thing exceedingly well, and that is cutting through the mix. So I definitely believe that there's a reason to use them, and I understand why players that like them really like them. Now, personally, what I've found is tube screamers do not sound fantastic on their own. For instance, when you're in your bedroom or in a studio and it's just you and the guitar amp and you turn a tube screamer on, I'm not a huge fan.
Fool this man!
But when you're playing with a band, either live or in a studio, they shine through and cut through a mix like almost nothing else. So as I mentioned, there are literally like hundreds of Tube Screamer variants on the market. From what I can tell as of the recording of this video, Ibanez has 6 different kinds on the market. Maxon, who originally made the Tube Screamer for Ibanez, has like 4 on the market. Almost every major builder and boutique builder has a Tube Screamer variant. JHS even has one pedal that has 9 different variations of a Tube Screamer in it. So this begs the question, why are there so many out there and which one should you choose? And in my opinion, most of these clones or mods are trying to fix 2 things. Number 1, Tube Screamers tend to lack low end. When you turn them on, they're not as full and thick, you lose a lot of low end, and they become very high and mid-heavy. Speaking of mid-heavy, number 2, they often have a pretty big spike in the mids, which can lead to a very nasally and unpleasant sound. Which kind of goes to what I mentioned in the beginning of the video, is to me, they don't sound great when it's just the guitar being featured. So most Tube Screamer-based offerings try to fix those, or they're trying to capture a specific era of Ibanez Tube Screamer. Now, everyone has their own take on this. What is the best Tube Screamer is likely to start a fight on just about any guitar message board or group that you'll ever join. But after owning a dozen or more Tube Screamer-esque pedals, there is one that is my favorite and I believe to be the best version of the Tube Screamer circuit. Now, disclaimer for those who are new to the channel, I am a Dunlop artist, and this particular pedal does happen to be a Dunlop product. However, I purchased this pedal with my own money. I purchased it before I had a relationship with Dunlop, and Dunlop has no idea I'm making this video and has not influenced anything in it. So do with that what you will. But here are the reasons why I give this pedal the best moniker. 1, it fixes both of the issues that I mentioned earlier. And these fixes are actually quite flexible, which I will get into. 2, it's well built and reliable. 3, it's affordable. You'll be able to get this pedal for $150 new and oftentimes under $100 used. And lastly, because there's not a ton of hype behind the pedal, It's available right now. There's no waiting list. You can go buy a new one off of Sweetwater right now, and there are a ton used on Reverb that you can buy right now. So surprise, the best Tube Screamer style pedal, in my opinion, is the Way Huge Green Rhino. If you've watched a little bit of my channel, you've probably seen the Red Llama video that I did a little while ago, so it should be no surprise that I have an affinity for Way Huge pedals. And the Green Rhino was actually the pedal that got me into the brand, as it was my first Way Huge pedal. I first got a Green Rhino when I was probably in high school, and it very often has a place on my board to this day. And it checks all of the boxes that I'm looking for in a Tube Screamer. Now, the biggest reason why I think the Green Rhino is the best Tube Screamer style pedal out there are these two small knobs right here. So the first one is 100 Hertz control. This knob will allow you to boost and cut the low end at 100 Hertz. This is incredibly valuable because this can help fight that thin sound that you get with a Tube Screamer and make it a lot fuller. Excellent take. Glad I don't have a second one here. I meant to say it's incredibly valuable to have that knob so that the Green Rhino doesn't sound thin like other Tube Screamers. So there you go. And if you feel that at noon that the Green Rhino has added too much of that 100 Hertz or too little of it, you can adjust it up and down. The second knob is a 500 Hertz control. And this is the same exact thing as 100 Hertz, only we're at 500 Hertz, which is the mid frequency. So again, we can mess with the mids of the pedal. We can boost it to cut through more, or we can reduce it so it doesn't sound as nasally. These are huge advantages in my opinion, because most companies, when they make a Tube Screamer clone, they do whatever they feel needs to be fixed, and then it's set. You can't do anything with it. It is what that pedal builder wanted it to be. Or they add one knob to tweak the mid-range or possibly the low end. Or the tweaks are either difficult to get to because you got to remove the back of the pedal, or there's just a lot more switches and knobs to them. The Green Rhino really makes it dead simple to dial both of these things in and modify it how you want it. These are also great because you can change it based on what your rig is. For instance, when I play my Strat through my Fender Vibroverb, I tend to reduce the low end because that's already there in the amp, and I increase the mid-range because that's not there in the amp. But when I play a Marshall amp with my gold top with humbuckers, then I tend to increase the low end and reduce the mids because the mids are already there and I need a little bit more low end than what a Tube Screamer would give me initially. So there's just such a wide range of Tube Screamer sounds that you can get out of this thing that you can tweak to just about any rig you may have. And the last control that you won't find on a normal Tube Screamer is the classic switch. When you engage this switch, then it bypasses the 100 and 500 Hertz knobs and sets it to the original specs of the Mark II Green Rhino made in the 90s, which if you've seen the prices for those lately is not a bad thing to include here. Now, a small, no pun intended, side note is that Way Huge currently makes two versions of the Green Rhino. The Mark IV is the one I've been talking about so far, and it's in the standard Way Huge enclosure. And the Mark V is part of the Way Huge Smalls line, and it is obviously smaller. Now, it should be noted that they look the same, but they actually are not the same. The Mark V is a great pedal, and I love it, and I often stick it on pedal boards when I'm running out of room and really want the Green Rhino sound. However, I don't like it as much as the regular Mark IV, and here's why. It's not because I think that small pedals don't sound as good as the big ones. I always think that they sound pretty similar whenever you do an A/B shootout. It's because Way Huge changed the controls on the smaller one, and it doesn't include what the bigger one has. You see, for the smalls, one of the knobs is just labeled frequency, and this knob controls either the 500 Hz or the 100 Hz, which is adjustable by removing the back of the pedal and deciding which one you want. But you have to pick one, you can't do both. The other small knob is now a curve knob, which Way Huge describes as taming aggressive highs, which in my experience makes it kind of a glorified presence knob, and I just don't find it as useful as having both the 500 and 100 Hz available. So it's a great pedal, and I encourage you to try it, but it is a little different than the bigger one. Now listen, I know we're all going to have a ton of fun arguing in the comments about how I'm completely wrong and there's a bunch of pedals that do what this does and you can find them for $20 on Amazon and all that good stuff. But this is just my personal experience. I just haven't played a Tube Screamer pedal that's as affordable, flexible, and available as the Way Huge Green Rhino. But at the end of the day, I just don't see a whole lot of hype behind this pedal, and I think it's great that you can get such a flexible Tube Screamer for under $100 if you go the used route. Now I'll end on this. There is an argument to be had about when a modded Tube Screamer stops really being a Tube Screamer. These things are known for their mid-range and abrasive grit, and if you change that too much, is it really still a Tube Screamer? And I also think that's where the Green Rhino shines, because 90% of the settings that are on this are going to be a Tube Screamer sound, just adjusted for your taste in your rig. And that's pretty much anything I would want out of any pedal. I want it to do its signature thing, but I also want it to blend into my rig and my sound and for it to be easy to use. And in my opinion, that's what the Green Rhino delivers. Whatever poor soul is coming next, she's gonna save me. Call me, baby, run her hands to my hand. Oh, it's recording, dang it.